Adventure Unbound is a YouTube channel where a UK-based outdoorsman documents his solo outdoor trips. In a video uploaded on February 28, 2025, he heads out to a local country park for an overnight trip to test out a brand new bivvy tent. For those who haven't used one before, a bivvy is essentially a low-profile shelter, barely bigger than a sleeping bag. They are great for staying hidden, but because they are so cramped, it also means he has absolutely zero room to maneuver or escape if something goes wrong outside. The afternoon starts off peacefully. He finds a flat spot off the main trail, sets up his gear, and does a little exploring. But just a short distance from his campsite, he stumbles across something a little unsettling.
A building, or at least half of one. I don't even know what it is. It's like these stone objects in a big pit. That's strange. Oh, you never know. It could be a place where they do like witchcraft and that, and potentially sacrifices. So if I go missing and this is my last video, then yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And
hidden in the trees, a strange half-ruined stone structure with a deep pit in the middle. He jokes about it being a spot for witchcraft or sacrifices, but you can tell the sheer isolation of the area is starting to get to him. Once the sun goes down, the woods become completely pitch black. After cooking up a quick dinner and enjoying a rare up-close sighting of a wild owl, he eventually crawls into his tiny bivvy tent to try and get some sleep. When you're out in the woods alone, the absolute last thing you'd want to happen while zipped inside a cramped, restrictive tent is to suddenly wake up to the sound of multiple men surrounding him in the dark.
Kyle! Turn around, there's somebody sleeping in the tent behind me. There. Go to the tent, right there, bro. Kyle! Come here. Hello? I told you it's bumping into something, it's not really good. Oh, come here, boys, together. Come together. Yeah, but I don't want the guy to feel threatened at all, do you know what I mean? Yeah, leave him to it, mate, let's go. He's got a body cut, look, he's got a trail cam there, look. What do you mean? A trail cam? Look on the tree, that this looks like animals and shit. You're right. Oh, sorry, mate. We just stumbled upon you, mate, my bad. No, it's alright, no worries. I told you. I'm camping, lads. You're doing okay, though? Tell you what.
Imagine being trapped in what is basically a fabric coffin, completely blind to the outside world, and suddenly bright flashlights are piercing through the thin material, while unidentified strangers whisper right above his head. It's every solo camper's worst nightmare. Fortunately, in this case, the group of guys realizes someone is sleeping there and actually decides to back off so they don't threaten him. A few minutes later, he turns his camera back on to whisper an update. He's clearly a little rattled, but trying to brush it off.
So I've just been woken up by some lads walking through the woods with a torch. They shined it on my tent. They've gone over down to where the circular brick thing was. The young lads anyway, probably in the 20s. Should be fine. Startled me a bit. I was like, whoa, who are you? You know, sort of thing. They didn't come up to the tent. They were about 20 feet away, but still. And it's dark like this and there's no one about. Yeah, it's a bit weird. But yeah, they're just over there now. They've got the torches going, so yeah, a bit weird, but
even though the guys ended up being relatively polite and apologized for waking him up, it is still an incredibly creepy situation to find himself in. Interestingly, he noted that after the group walked away from his tent, they wandered straight down toward that strange ruined stone pit he had found earlier that day. He packed up his gear at first light and made it out fine. But what a group of young guys was doing hiking through the pitch-black woods with flashlights late at night just to visit an eerie abandoned stone ruin is anyone's guess. While they clearly didn't have bad intentions toward him, it definitely makes you wonder what kind of late-night activities they were actually out there looking for. Novice Wild Camper is a wild camping channel. His primary focus is to disconnect, breathe, and find stillness, and most of his content follows a very similar format built around that purpose. His videos show the camper going to remote, untouched locations, looking for a quiet place, and usually setting up his hammock by the end, all while capturing that serenity beautifully. And the video he filmed on October 24, 2023, was meant to be no different. The channel's host was out stealth camping in a woodland he didn't know well, just a short distance off from a few houses. Little did he know, this trip was about to be shattered by an incident that would leave him with a night he'd struggle to shake.
Thought I could hear someone then.
The sounds were too weird to just be breaking branches or something normal, and while feeling this scared was bad enough on its own, it was only the start of a much weirder night, because not only did the strange noises keep going while he set up camp, they also got stranger and harder to ignore with every passing minute.
Keep hearing some weird noises, and not just crunches and cracks, but weird vocal noises as well. Anyway.
A few hours into the night, things got truly scary for Carl. Because it was pitch black, he couldn't actually catch what happened on camera. Instead, the footage abruptly cuts to Carl sitting inside his locked car at 4 a.m., looking completely rattled as he explains to his viewers exactly why he had to flee his campsite in the dark.
I sort of fell asleep to the sound of chestnuts crashing through the trees and hitting the deck. And it's the same sound every time, sort of crunch, 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 thump. After the rain started, but some crashing around that got nearer and nearer and nearer to my hammock. And every time I moved or got out to check, it stopped but didn't run away. So I'd expect if there was a deer or something, I'd hear it run off.
Sitting in the safety of his vehicle, Carl explains that the sounds of heavy crashing had started moving closer and closer to his hammock. Now all of this still could have had a perfectly normal explanation. Maybe the sounds in the dark were just a clumsy animal foraging or dead branches falling from the trees above. However, what made that hard to believe was the massive thud that hit the ground right next to him. Realizing that someone or something was actively throwing large rocks and branches at his shelter in the middle of the night, Carl had made the fast choice to abandon his camp and stumble through the dark woods to his car. He waited in the driver's seat until daylight broke before finally getting the courage to walk back and pack up his gear. But even in the morning light, whatever was out there wasn't done messing with him.
Yeah. I'm getting packed up. Stuff the bacon walls.
Becoming even more terrified after another heavy rock came rolling out of the brush right toward his feet, Carl grabbed his remaining gear and made the frantic choice to leave the woods for good. In addition to the strange noises, crashing sounds, and heavy rocks, Carl felt a deep instinctual fear that told him he was being watched from just a few feet away. He never discovered whether it was an angry animal or a cruel prankster out there in the dark. Back in 2017, a YouTuber named Phil began uploading videos of his hiking trips to his channel, Hike Slam. One video shows Phil heading out on an overnight hike the day before Thanksgiving to camp along a trail in Virginia. At the start of the hike, everything seems normal, with clear weather and quiet surroundings. But after about half an hour on the trail, Phil comes across strange-looking trash placed right in the middle of the path. When he looks closer, he notices writing on it a mix of song lyrics and unsettling phrases, which is when things start to feel off.
Some writing on some of this garbage? This one. Hangman is coming down from the gallows. Song lyrics.
Though it's hard to imagine why anyone would go through the trouble of writing out lyrics or dark poems, like Hangman is coming down from the gallows on a piece of trash, only to throw it on the trail. Phil brushes it off and keeps walking. However, as he crosses the boundary into the wilderness, things continue to get stranger. As he nears his intended campsite, Phil finds another disturbing scene waiting for him.
The weirdness continues. What the hell? And there's a dead duck here. A very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently killed. Alright. Kind of creepy. There's a fire down there.
It's tough to confirm if the person who wrote the long rambling note was the same person who killed the duck, but honestly, It would be way too much of a coincidence for a freshly dead animal to be lying right there next to a creepy note that wasn't even wet yet. After taking in the eerie scene, Phil spots a tarp and a fire at a campsite just down the hill. Shortly after, Phil runs into two women coming down the trail with their dog.
Okay, well that was really weird. So as I was hiking toward the shelter, still considering what I was going to do for the night, these two women were hiking in the opposite direction. They had a little dog with them. They asked if I had seen the guy who was leaving the notes. I said he has a campsite down by the river because I could hear the fire going. I could see where his tarp was set up. He was actually just sitting on a rock down there. They were shocked I was still considering camping.
They ask him if he's seen the guy leaving the creepy notes and dead animals, and they are so terrified that they ask Phil to walk them back to their car. Thinking it's probably a good idea to move as far away as possible from that campsite anyway, Phil escorts them out, gets in his truck, and drives to a completely different part of the Appalachian Trail miles away. Fortunately, the rest of his hike to the new shelter is a lot more uneventful. He sets up his tent, cooks some ramen over his camp stove, and enjoys a quiet, safe evening by the fire. Once it gets dark, he decides to go into the shelter to check out the camp log and read the stories other hikers have left behind. That's when things get extremely creepy all over again.
Wait a second. Well, I'm adjust the camera here. This writing looks almost exactly like the writing that was on that garbage a couple of miles from here. Let's see if this makes any sense. In 2018, while I was incarcerated at the Okaloosa County Jail. What the heck? Wow, this is weird. It's just like it goes in one direction, then immediately goes in a completely different direction. And there's just so much of it.
Even though the shelter where he is currently staying is miles away and on the other side of the road, the handwriting in the camp log is exactly the same as the handwriting from the bizarre trash earlier that day. This is disturbing enough, but it gets worse as Phil reads the actual content. The writer talks about solitary confinement in a county jail, government conspiracy theories, and grave robbery. The fact that a recently incarcerated man is walking around the woods leaving dark, rambling manifestos all over the place is terrifying. As Phil packs his things up to retreat to the safety of his tent, he notices one last thing hanging from the shelter ceiling to keep mice away.
I'm packing up my stuff to go into my tent, and they have these things that they put in shelters a lot to hang your food bag from, so like mice can't get to it. Look at this one. What do you know? Same handwriting as the one in the book, and that garbage on the trail from that same dude. So it says, watch out for yeet mouse. The dead do walk and talk. Like, what the hell is going on?
Understandably creeped out by a note that reads, "Watch out for yeet mouse. The dead do walk and talk." Phil zips himself into his tent. The last thing you'd want to happen in this situation is to start hearing strange noises outside in the dead of night, but that's exactly what happens next.
I was down in my tent, not asleep, kind of just like lying there staring at the tent walls, listening to all the sounds, and then I heard somebody down by the shelter. So at first I had to convince myself it wasn't what I thought I heard, but it definitely was somebody down there. So I didn't even wait to see or go down to see who it was, see if it was like a bunch of teenage girls or something. I don't know. I was just like, I am getting out of here. So I packed up all my stuff, and I packed it up very quickly. I don't think I left anything behind, and I just walked past. As I walked past, I did look. It did look like a single guy hanging out in the shelter. He had a headlamp on. All I could really see was the light from the headlamp, so I could have been wrong. But man, it was, yeah. So I don't know. I just got out of there, and like that's the thing. It's like it was probably a guy who was out like me, like out and wants to just go camping or spend a night out. Beautiful night. But I wasn't gonna hang around. I don't know. I guess I got scared. But so I decided to pack up all my stuff and hike back. I looked back behind me a bunch of times as I was hiking to see if that light was following me. It sounds silly, but I mean, like, but now I think I'm almost back at my truck, and I'm just gonna get out of here and go home.
While he was trying to sleep, Phil heard someone moving around the shelter. Peeking out, he saw a single man with a headlamp pacing the area. Not wanting to find out if it was the same guy who had been leaving the unhinged notes, Phil packed up his entire camp in record time and sprinted back to his truck in the pitch black, checking over his shoulder the entire way. It's entirely possible that the man with the headlamp was just a harmless night hiker looking for a place to rest. But given the trail of dead animals, the erratic jailhouse ramblings, and the sheer isolation of the woods, it's probably a very good thing Phil trusted his gut and got out of there when he did. Jenna is a YouTuber who runs the channel Jenna Alexis, where she uploads a lot of videos of her solo camping and bushcrafting trips. In November 2024, she uploaded footage of a trip out to some remote crown land in grizzly bear territory that ended up taking a pretty terrifying turn. For the first half of the video, things go pretty much according to plan. Jenna clearly knows what she's doing out in the woods. She chops down dead trees for firewood, crosses a stream, and puts together a really nice tarp shelter using just some paracord and sticks she carved herself. She's out there completely alone, enjoying the nice weather, and it looks like it's going to be a great trip. But out of nowhere, the footage cuts to her completely freaking out. Instead of enjoying her camp, she's suddenly tearing her shelter down as fast as she can and just shoving all her gear into her bag.
Okay, goodbye to the campsite that once almost was. I don't think I left anything. Okay. Barely got everything in my bag because I didn't fold everything properly. I'm just trying to get out of here. I have half my stuff in my food bag.
It's honestly really unsettling to watch someone who is usually so calm out in the woods suddenly panic like that. She completely abandons the spot she just spent all day setting up and practically runs back to her van. It isn't until she's safely locked inside and driving away that she finally explains to her viewers what actually happened earlier that day to put her on edge.
Just to explain what just happened there. This morning I got here pretty early and I pulled out to the spot that I thought was going to be my spot for the night, and I was getting my backpack, getting ready to leave the car, when this white SUV pulled up and this guy walked out, and he walked up to my campsite, or where my car was parked, and he was like, "Hey, me and my girlfriend were here this morning and I left something, I'm just going to go look for it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But I wanted to wait inside the van until he got back out of the woods and left, so that I knew he wasn't still out there and that he wouldn't know where I was going to hike to. So I was waiting in the car for a while, and it started to get suspicious that he was out in the woods for that long. And so I walked up to his car, first of all to get the license plate, but also to see if his girlfriend was actually in there. But the windows were heavily tinted to the point that I couldn't even see in. But I walked up and around the car, so I would assume if the girlfriend was in there, she would have saw me and been "Hey, what's up?" You know what I mean? So I walked around the car, I couldn't see if there was someone inside. I got the license plate and I went back to my car, and I just got a bad feeling from that.
That morning encounter alone is incredibly sketchy. A random guy pulling up to an isolated camper, using a weird excuse about looking for something his girlfriend lost, all while driving a vehicle with heavily tinted windows so you can't even see inside. Because she understandably got a really bad feeling about the guy, Jenna did the smart thing and got out of there.
And I just got a bad feeling from that, so I drove my van up to another campsite. So I was already on edge all day debating if I even wanted to camp out, but I basically, like I said, I drove my van all the way to a new spot. I hid it in the trees and I hiked away from my van, so I wasn't even on the same trail as I was parked near. And then 4 p.m. rolls around and I see that same car. I know it was the same car because when I looked at the license plate, I saw his back window was gone and he just had a garbage bag over it. And I saw a white SUV pull up in the distance, and then I saw it stop where I'm pretty sure he saw me, and then he turned around and left, and as he was leaving I saw that garbage bag on the back. I was very uneasy. Why did I see that man twice? Why did I never see his girlfriend that he mentioned? Why was he driving around a bunch of different campsites all day? I also don't like the vibe I got from him in the first place, and I just needed to get out of here.
She drove miles away to a totally different spot, went out of her way to hide her van deep in the trees so nobody driving by would see it, and hiked off trail to set up her new camp. It's pretty much impossible for that to just be a coincidence. The odds of a random guy accidentally stumbling onto her secret spot twice in one day are basically zero. Whether he was tracking her tire marks or just driving around specifically looking for solo campers, his behavior is super predatory. Luckily, Jenna didn't stick around to find out what he actually wanted, but it's pretty messed up that she couldn't even enjoy a peaceful camping trip without having to worry about being stalked. In April 2019, an outdoors fan named Jason from Appy Mountain Trekkers was staying alone in the mountains, making a normal video for his channel. At first, he was showing off his usual hiking trips and camping skills, He tried to enjoy the quiet woods, but the trip wasn't going to stay that way, and kept becoming more and more strange. First, it seemed like a very peaceful night, until he heard a weird noise coming from a mountaintop nearby.
Keep hearing the strange noise up on the top of the mountain. I can't figure out what that is. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it sounds like some kind of, almost sounds like a bird, but it doesn't.
He also kept telling himself it was just an animal while quickly finishing up his camp and his evening chores. Jason decided that he wasn't in danger and that the sound he heard was just normal wildlife, which made sense and was something he was used to from his many past trips. However, despite having a good reason, the woods refused to stay quiet and kept getting louder around him. What made the night even scarier was that a strange noise woke him up only an hour after he turned off his camera, making it clear that he had a very long night ahead.
I was woke up by something I've never heard in my life. And I know this might sound sensational or something that, I'm not bullshitting. I heard like 4 quick, very loud, deep guttural calls on this ridge behind me, behind camp. There's like a dip on the other side, and it goes up to a higher ridge on this backside, and it sounded like it come from over there. But it was like 4 calls, almost like a communication call of some kind. They were back to back, and then there was a pause, and then I heard 2 more. It scared the absolute shit out of me. I got up and got this first thing. I don't know what the hell that was, but it was big. It sounded big.
Not only that, but while resting in his tent, he heard a deep, rough call, a very strange sound that came from far away and made it impossible to guess what animal it was. Simply put, the noise was unlike anything he had ever heard before. Fortunately, he stayed calm enough not to let it trouble him further and tried to go back to sleep. Later, however, something moving around outside at 1 a.m. made the night far less peaceful than he had hoped.
It's about 1 o'clock. I woke up again. I heard something circle my camp. Whatever it is, it's close. You hear that? Whatever it is, it sounded like there was 2 or 3 of them, and it started on the other side of my camp, went around my perimeter.
As he swept his flashlight around, it was clear he didn't notice the pairs of glowing eyes in the corner of the video and left it at that. However, that wasn't even the scariest part, because a bright white glow suggested that wolves or coyotes were watching him in the dark. Given how these animals behave, they could easily become dangerous if they felt trapped or were protecting nearby young. But for some reason, Jason remained completely unaware of the threat and kept scanning the woods with his light without seeing a thing. Luckily, none of the animals attacked him, and he was able to film his morning update without ever knowing they were there. A YouTuber named Moxley uploaded a video documenting a trip he took with his friend Maine into the reportedly haunted forest of Pretoria Pit. At the beginning, everything seemed routine. They were searching for a suitable campsite while casually discussing the area's unsettling past. The mood was calm and controlled, but that sense of normalcy wouldn't last for long. While walking deeper into the woods, the two also planned to set up camp and see if any spirits might answer them that night, adding a much heavier feeling to an already creepy place.
Well, there's a lake just to my right here, and it's said that a white lady has been spotted around it. Let's have a look. I bet that is horrifying at night. But yeah, there's been multiple reports of a white lady seen at this lake. I have to say though, a white lady, she gets around, doesn't she?
The old pit they passed was known as a place that claimed 344 lives. According to the local stories, there was also a white lady seen by the lake, At first glance, pitching a tent seems like one of the easiest things to do out there, but the first signs of trouble were already starting to show.
So I can come back and collect a load of these bricks, and then with them we can do like a little fire pit, get a fire going, keep warm. Not too sure what that was. Just like a black shadow went. Could have been somebody on a push bike, to be fair.
Moxley had plenty of woods experience under his belt, but he wasn't completely familiar with this particular figure darting between the trees and didn't know about the sharp whistle a few moments later.
So let's go get the tents up. Let's get the kettle on, have a coffee, then wait for nightfall to... That fucking scared me then. That was very loud, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really loud.
I was like, hey.
A whistle suddenly echoed from under the trees, confirming they weren't alone. Under normal circumstances, remaining unnoticed is relatively easy for anyone who knows what they're doing. However, large backpacks and camera gear make this otherwise simple task infinitely more difficult, as being watched becomes a stronger possibility with each passing second. To make matters worse, the darkness they were in was also settling quickly. Even if they could establish their camp with heavy gear, they still risk drawing unwanted attention and having the situation escalate before morning.
We heard a noise, we've put it down to an animal, then we've heard something else, then again, animals, stuff like that. We just sat here and just in front, that was definite lights, wasn't it?
That was definite light. It's still there.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Can't really see it on the camera, but...
I can.
Having bright torch lights weaving through the dense trees increases the tension exponentially. Even if whoever was out there isn't able to strike directly, they can at the very least advance with deliberate movement. Moxley, however, didn't have that option, as they were already too close.
Wait a minute.
There's people in the woods. Yeah, there is. I'm going to flash back over towards them. They're over there, where my torch is now. Yeah, you can see it. See them? Yeah, they're coming this way. I told you, didn't I, when I was in the tent, I thought I could hear stuff over there. That's why I thought, you know what, let's go out. Yeah. Let's go do a bit of a ghost hunt, in a little bit of a walk, check the area out. And no sooner I got out the tent did I see the lights.
Yeah, well, I know.
Which now is making me believe, even though they've not really been hostile with us,
They haven't. They've not approached
but could they've approached the tent whilst we've been asleep?
They could have done.
Or trying to go to sleep, and that was the noises that we were hearing because we didn't have the lights on, so they couldn't locate where the tent was.
Fortunately, this worked. After a long but silent night, they outlasted the immediate threat and made it out completely unharmed. They realized an unmistakable and chilling truth: you never really know who is watching.